arty friends, this is Teresa from Teresa's Crafty Cabana, and I am showing you some exciting new stencils that I got from PM Artist Studio. They always come nicely packaged, and in this little tiny envelope I get the little free stencil, the circles that Mariah was telling us about, and then this looks like the tulips that she made me, two little cutouts there. And then this is their Facebook schedule, and they do have some perks and different things to check out. So this first stencil is a new stencil that Rhonda Dohna had created, and this is the Suspicious Sprouts, which I love the name of. So I think that drew me in when I saw that. I was very suspicious of them and had to try them out. And then when they cut them out, they have these little inside pieces, so they did include that. I didn't put it in the comments, but thank you, Mariah. I appreciate these little pieces. These are actually really cool because you can kind of almost make your own sprouts from these, and they can be different sizes and like apart from each other. So those are really fun. And then this is what the sprouts look like. They just look really happy. I don't know. They look less suspicious and more happy to me. So they're really cute, and those I think are going to make a great background stencil. So next I have the numbers set, the scattered numbers set, and this is from Ceri the Crafter. And I got the smaller one. I wanted the smaller one because I wanted to be able to do masking off in different areas of my gel print. If you haven't checked out Ceri's channel, he does have a YouTube channel. These numbers are great. I love these. So we've got just the numbers kind of scattered around here. We've got the plus, the minus, the equals, and the divide symbol, and it's almost the same size as that free stencil. Then we've got those same, but they're vertical. And here we've got numbers with the different plus, minus, equals, divide, and then just the numbers kind of like in a row. So these are really fun, and I can't wait to try these out. They are also going to be good to layer up because they won't take up an entire background, so they'll be fun to layer. Next, I have the Forest Floor. This one is so beautiful. Darcy Sanders, she had created this one. I just love the design of this. It's so flowy, and I don't know, this one to me is just beautiful. And there's actually, if you haven't checked out PM Artist Studio lately, they've done some interviews with their designers for their stencils. So Darcy had an interview a few weeks ago, and Rhonda had an interview with PM Artist Studio. I think it was this last Sunday. So definitely worth checking out and learning a little bit more about how they came to be designers for the stencils that they make, and maybe where their inspiration came from, and kind of a little bit about them. So I'll link those videos in my description if you'd like to watch those. So here I'm just going to start playing. Every time I start Gelli Print session, I don't really know where I'm going to go with it until I play with those stencils a little bit and discover how I want to use them, what colors maybe I like. So for now, I'm just using just a pink color that I made from a magenta and a white. And these are the golden fluids that I'm using. Now you will notice that I put my numbers on the wrong way. That's also why this is part of my playtime, is to give myself the chance to mess up like this and not really care all that much, because right now I'm just testing these out. So they will come out backwards. I do end up pulling them on tissue paper, so it won't I can probably still put them the right way if I were using some Mod Podge over the top, and you'd probably still see them. It would just be a lighter version of the colors. So if you are new to my channel, or if you're sticking around and you've been watching my channel, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and like this video if you are enjoying this content. I do like doing these gel print videos. These are kind of my jam for now. But I do all kinds of crafty things. Mostly I am a card maker, but the gel prints, they're just so fun to experiment with, and I don't always make stuff with my Gelli prints. As I'm sure, I don't know if all of you make stuff with your Gelli prints, but just the getting into doing the printing and getting all the little textures. Like this texture is actually the wood grain. It's supposed to be used on cakes, and so as I'm looking at different things, stencils, impression things that can press into my Gelli plate, definitely even look out in nature and see like leaves that look really cool and have like cool veins, and I think, oh, I want a Gelli print with that. So it's definitely just kind of brings my awareness of this medium like to everything that I do. So, and whenever I see a print that I pull that's like really cool, then I get inspired to want to make a card from it. So yeah, I really enjoy this process. These again, these came out backwards, but that's okay. I still think they turned out pretty. And then this one was my first, just run through with the Suspicious Sprouts. And I'm just pulling up some of that color that I had layered up on the plate. And then I wanted to give this a little something extra, so I have some gold that I just went ahead and put over the top of the sprouts before I pulled the stencil off. I didn't want to pull the print with the gold, so I put my paper back down and just pulled off the extra gold so that I would just leave almost like a lining of gold around those sprouts. And the gold, you can hardly tell. This is rice paper that I'm using. I'm using a combination of rice paper and tissue paper. For this one though, the bigger one, it was the rice paper. I did let that layer dry, and then I'm going in with some greens and yellows and even a turquoise here. Because sprouts are green, right? Even though I made them blue and pink. But they are, they're really fun to use with different colors. I liked not using the traditional colors all the time, but I did want to put some green in here. Plus it's St. Patty's Day weekend, so this is a good green background. I also have some foam stamps from Pam Artist Studio, and this is the Northern Bumblebee. I'm using 2 Gelli plates at this time because, well, number one, it's definitely a lot easier to work off 2 because you can take your extra paint and brayer it off on the other Gelli plate. So that's kind of what I've been doing back and forth with the 2 plates. And then it's also helpful because as one is drying, you can work on the other one. Now, I'm not really too well versed in rice paper, but I use the treated side. I was told by some of the awesome crafters out there, the makers of Mixed Media Artists page, that we should use the treated side of the rice paper. So that's what I started doing, and I've had good results with that. The other thing I was told is that you probably don't want to leave the paper on the gel plate for too long, because then it'll end up sticking to the gel plate or something like that. So I haven't had that happen to me just yet, and I haven't left it on like overnight or for even more than maybe 2 minutes. So that's just my experience so far. And this little one that I did, I was just cleaning off my gel plate, and it kind of blended in with the green below it. So that one I might do a layered, some kind of gel print later on. But for now, that one's done. I brayered some of my blue over on this other stencil, or this other gel plate here, so that I can have a little bit of that kind of background blue color, just a little grunginess. And now I'm putting my warm colors down. So I've got yellow, and then I've got this kind of like a warm red color, and together these make a really nice orange color. So once that layer was nice and smooth, but my paint was still wet, I flipped my numbers around so that I had them going the correct way. And then to press it in, I just used my brayer. And then I used some of my other number sets here. And so for this, I'm just getting a little bit of this background pulled out by brayering over it, so it does remove the paint when you brayer right over it. And it kind of leaves like an outline of the numbers, which I think it looks really cool. So I'm just gonna repeat in different areas, making sure to flip my stencil so it's backwards. And you can see on that part there the outline of the numbers. So I think this was a really fun experiment for me. I haven't really made a Gelli print like this before, using a bunch of smaller stencils and kind of removing the paint from inside of them. There I almost messed up and did it the wrong way. Gotta flip it over. But this was a really fun print for me. I think of all the prints that I made, the one that I get from this one is my favorite today. So off camera, I thought I was done, but I ended up pulling a little more numbers on the edges, and then I let it dry completely. And now I'm going in, so those were my warmer colors, and now I'm going to go in with cooler colors. I've got purple, blue, and turquoise. And on the turquoise, I really like that color mixed with white, so that one I added a little bit of white too. And then I'll just make an ombre with all three of these colors. And I'm using my smaller gel plate to brayer off some of that blue paint. So I don't have to use as much of my roll-off paper when I do the 2 gel plates. My paper didn't go on completely straight, just had this one teeny tiny little spot that I missed, but the rest of it got on, so that was okay. Plus mostly I will cut up my gel prints anyway and make them kind of smaller or into card sized. While that one is drying for a little bit, I'm going to put the numbers on the smaller gel plate. And now I have the cool color, the blue, down, and I'm just going to do the same process, but I'm just laying them kind of all down at once, and then I'm going to remove the paint using the small brayer. And then while this layer is drying for this gel plate, I will work on removing the, oh, and I did add a little bit of texture behind it first as well. More of that wood grain texture. Now I'm going to remove this rice paper, but the rice paper was already starting to stick, so I had to start peeling up the edges so that it wouldn't rip. And I did find that pulling up my gel plate and kind of pulling away from the edges made it so that more of the paint came up on the paper. One thing I didn't realize as I was doing this is the paper was kind of wrinkling, so maybe with a little more finesse if you're going to try this. You see where that paper was wrinkling every time I moved my jelly plate. This rice paper really holds those wrinkles. Again, I love this because it's got both the warm tones and the cool tones, and they pop from each other. So the kind of yellows and greens up on the top with the blue background, and then more of the reds and purple, like the reds and oranges, and then the purplish blue to make it pop from the bottom part. So I would be more careful next time not to make all those wrinkles on my paper. I don't have that problem with copy paper, and that's usually what I use, so another learning experience for me. This time for my smaller plate, I'm using warm colors over my blue. So I've got the yellow down, and then this is the magenta, and I'm just gonna blend those together so I get kind of an orange in the middle. I use tissue paper for this smaller one. And this is just regular tissue paper like you would use for gift wrapping. And again, I didn't let that sit too long enough to dry just a little, but not enough to dry completely. And this one turned out really nice with the bright blue. It pops against the magenta pink, and even as it gets to the orange color and the yellow at the bottom and fades away. I think this one's beautiful. Turns out really nice with those warm colors and cool colors. So I am loving these combinations, so I'm going to do another combination of the warm colors. This is the purple, the red, and the magenta, and I am going to use the forest floor for this one. And I'm using a similar technique I did with the numbers, where I'm removing the paint in between those leaves and the dots as best as I can, just to make sure that I can have some open spaces left. I'm doing some of the gold next. I didn't mind that it mixed with the pink, so it's more of like a rose gold. Here's a piece of copy paper that I'm using to just remove the extra paint. And then I do let this layer dry completely. While that's drying, I used another piece of tissue paper to pull up some of the paint that was on the stencil. I didn't pull up too much, but it did clean it off just a little bit. So now my cool colors, I've got the yellow, green, turquoise, and a darker blue color. For this one, I won't use any white. And this one's really fun. I really enjoyed this stencil also because the interview that PM Artist Studio Mariah did with Darcy, who designed this stencil, she told us how she kind of created this stencil, so I won't spoil it. If you want to hear that story, I definitely will recommend to watch the interview of her, but that is what I was thinking about. So Darcy, if you're watching this, that was a really cool inspiration story, and I really had fun using that stencil today. These are the Suspicious Sprouts pieces, and they almost look like puzzle pieces, but just pulling off some of the extra paint on that gel plate. I did use copy paper to pull this print, and the white is a nice bright white, and I love this one. It turned out so pretty. It has the little bits of gold around the leaves and the darker kind of warm red colors for the outlines, and then the blues and the green to yellow on the leaf part. So I thought that this one turned out so beautiful. This is going to make a really beautiful card for sure. And then for this bigger one, I went back in with my cool toned colors, so the purple, the blue, and the turquoise. And I'm going to use my Suspicious Sprouts again. I was having a hard time lining it up on my gel plate on the bigger one. So that's what I was doing there. I'm removing the paint again in between. And then while that paint was still a little bit wet, I am spraying that onto the other gel plate. I've got this iridescent bright gold. I'm going to use that, and then some yellow and the red and the magenta. Sticking with the cool colors, then the warm colors, or the warm colors and then the cool colors. Just because I think that those prints are really, really fun, and the colors just really pop from the backgrounds. For this one, I'm also going to use the bright white copy paper. So the gold for this one was just at the bottom instead of around the leaves. So I think this one turned out really nice as well. Kind of looks like a sunset with the sprouts as shadows. And then I used that same iridescent gold to pull up this final print here on my little jelly plate. Before I pulled the print though, I did use my little wood grain impression, and then pulled that on copy paper. It didn't pull up all of the paint, but I think it looks really cool. Kind of speckly, and you can see the gold and the blue. Towards the bottom you can see more of the sprouts. So I think that one, it looks cool. It'll make a fun something. So that concludes this print session. These are my favorite prints of the ones that I made today. They had the contrast in them. The number ones were really a favorite of mine, but I also really love that forest floor with the bright colors. Looks like a sunset over the leaves. I don't know, maybe twilight, but I think it looks beautiful. I think all these colors just, it's the golden paints, y'all. If you're not sure, if you want to get some golden paints, they're definitely a game changer. So again, this is probably going to turn into a card, and then these other ones, I just have the warm ones together and the cool ones. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and stay tuned for the next video, whatever it might be. Happy crafting!